What is up guys, Andy Forresty Runner here, and today we're going to be comparing the Saucony ENDORPHIN Pro to the Hoka One Carbon X and the New Balance FUELCELL TC. So since I got the Saucony ENDORPHIN Pro and completed testing for this shoe, you guys have asked me to compare it to the Hoka Carbon X and the New Balance FUELCELL TC. So I thought rather than doing two separate videos, I'll do one big comparison video going through the pros and the cons of all of these three shoes and stacking them up against the newest, latest and greatest carbon plated racer there is in 2020. So if you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and we'll start with the Carbon X. So just before we jump into the pros and cons of each of these three shoes, just a reminder, this is simply my personal experience with all three of these shoes. If you want to see a full technical specification, a full technical overview, you can search up on the YouTube channel. All of these shoes and their first impressions videos, full technical details are in there. Today I just want to cover some of the basic technical specs and talk to you about why I love and maybe not love these shoes quite as much, and which one for me comes out on top at the end. Just some basic stats for the Carbon X. In my UK size 13, 309 grams or 10.7 ounces. We have a 32mm stack height in the heel, 27 in the forefoot, meaning we have a 5mm heel to toe drop. This is a single mesh upper shoe with a gusseted tongue, Pro-Fly midsole, foam outsole, Meta rocker design, full length carbon plate which you can see through the middle here, and that's about as technical as we will go with this shoe. Let's jump into the pros and cons. So I was quite late to the Carbon X party. I only got this at the beginning of the year because I wanted something relatively similar to my OG Zoom Flies. I loved that shoe and I heard noises that this thing was very similar, and I was proved right. It is an absolute beauty of a shoe. I have said it time and time again, I like quite a firm racing shoe. I love feeling that snap, that smooth transition. The next percent in the original tempo run, which a lot of you were kind of like, oh, you didn't like it as much as the ENDORPHIN Pro, which I get, I understand it is an incredible shoe. And I did see the magic in my recent 1K reps video. It was quite soft and I did find myself sinking in a little bit to the pavement, and the ENDORPHIN Pro was just phenomenal. It reminded me of the Carbon X, but an upgraded version. So let me tell you what I really like about this shoe, and then maybe the cons with this shoe. What I really like is the Meta rocker design. The fact that when you stand on this shoe, it just feels like you're stepping off the edge of the curb. It's quite an aggressive feel in terms of when you're walking around. You really do feel just walking around like you want to sort of fall off the edge of the curb, and that's great for me and my gait cycle when I'm running. I remember at the Gloucester Half Marathon, setting my half marathon PR in this shoe at 1:17. I was surrounded by vapor flies, and the noise, the next percents, and the noise of them thudding the ground. It's a noisy shoe. I'm finding out now with my next percent, and this thing was as smooth as butter. It was beautiful. It was just noiseless. It was so smooth and it just worked really well. I love the firm midsole, and for those of you who haven't got the Carbon X, it is on the firmer side. I'd say much firmer than the next percent if you're running the next percent. For me, the upper worked really well. Some people report this shoe to be a little bit too narrow. For me, it was perfect, just like the Rincon. I do have a wider foot. The Rincon stretched and molded to my feet. This thing did as well, so it worked really well. And the gusseted tongue, as always, you can't go wrong with a gusseted tongue. My foot, the midfoot just feels locked down beautifully. The only con I had with this shoe was the weight. When you're comparing weights of racing shoes, I do like to try and get under 10 ounces under 300 grams if possible. For a racing shoe, it is hard to come by in my size, UK size 13. This thing just tips it. And there are a few places I can see where they can, well actually there's one place I can see they lose some weight. The upper is lovely and light, the laces are great, the heel counter is very, very flexible. There's literally barely any structure to this, exactly how I like a racing shoe. The Profine midsole feels relatively light, but this foam outsole is hefty. As you can see on the bottom, there's no sort of extra outsole that you've seen and we'll see in the Saucony ENDORPHIN Pro, where they just put small little bits on. This has a thick layer of foam outsole, and that adds a heck of a lot of weight. If they could strip that right back and just put some little bits in little areas like they do on sort of the Cliftons and the Rincons, just in some high wearing areas, then this would have been transformed. But other than that, it was an absolutely fantastic shoe. Moving on to the FUELCELL TC, 316 grams or 11.4 ounces, roughly converting there in my UK size 13. Synthetic upper, 30mm in the heel, 20mm in the forefoot, 10mm heel to toe drop. Big contrast to the Carbon X. Synthetic upper, synthetic mesh upper, suede tip that goes all around the top there, FUELCELL midsole, full length carbon plate, a little bit of rubber outsole there, very thin compared to the Carbon X. You can see how thin that is compared to the foam that you saw on the Carbon X, and just basically in the forefoot area, promoting that midfoot to forefoot push off. This technically is not a racing shoe. This is the training companion to the RC, which will be coming out later this year at the time that I record this video. But New Balance state on their website, and a lot of you guys have said, this shoe can be for training and for racing, and I know a lot of you guys have considered getting this shoe for racing. We'll talk about that at the end and my thoughts on that. At £180, I think you're in and around the area where you can maybe go for the Carbon X if you don't mind a firmer midsole for 160, which will no doubt come down in price when the Rocket X is released, and I know that's released at certain points, parts in the world, or the ENDORPHIN Pro, which is 190, £10 more for a heck of a lightweight package. But the difference with this shoe is the FUELCELL midsole. The upper, the lacing, I struggled a bit with the lacing. Let's talk about the pros and cons. First, start with the pros, the FUELCELL midsole with the carbon plate. So I had the FUELCELL Propel, brilliant shoe, a little bit sloppy when you picked up the pace, perfect for those easy days, recovery days. FUELCELL combined with the carbon plate is an absolute gem. I absolutely love the FUELCELL midsole. It came second in my midsoles of 2020, video that I did about a month ago, and it was absolutely great. The upper, the mesh material, super, super comfy. This suede tip round here just provides comfort beyond comfort. That's as far as it goes with the pros. The cons, I struggled in the beginning to get some lockdown. I have now threaded the laces through some of the holes in the tongue of the TC. A lot of you guys sent me videos and photos. Thank you, I have done it. It has made the world of difference. The tongue no longer slips. The foam causes a little bit of instability. I now have literally reserved this shoe for long runs and tempo runs only. I actually took the shoe up to 150 miles today, which is awesome, and it's holding out really, really well. Durability is a massive positive in this shoe, but I won't do any other type of run in this shoe other than those types because it is just awkward running easy. It's certainly not a jack of all trades shoe. It is a shoe for me that is perfect for marathon training and for 1 hour, 40-minute tempo runs. It's incredible. And for some of those longer speed intervals, if you're marathon training, 3x5K, 4x20 minutes, that sort of range, this is the shoe for you. Other than that, I really have struggled to find its place in the rotation. So I literally have reserved it for that. The instability is the only major downside of this shoe. It can feel quite unstable. I believe that's due to the fact that we've got a 30mm stack height, 30 to 20, and the foam is so soft. I mean, it is so squidgy, it's ridiculous. Turning corners in this thing can be a bit of a pain. I do tend to take corners slowly. When you're in a straight line and you're going, you don't even feel these things on your feet. When you start to turn a corner, it can be a little bit hairy. So that's a little bit of a con there. What would I say to the people that want to buy this shoe for racing? I'd say there are better options out there. There are racing shoes, 10, 20 pounds more, even less with the Carbon X, it's 160, that would be better suited for you. But overall, this is still a fantastic option. And for me, half marathon and above, this thing is an absolute gem. And finally, we'll finish with the Endorphin Pro. 35.5mm stack height in the heel, 27.5 in the forefoot, 8mm heel to toe drop. That is the sweet spot for me. 268 grams or 9.6 ounces in a UK size 13. This shoe features a 3D form fit upper material, which is incredible. We have their new speed roll technology, which is a little bit like the Meta Rocker technology that Hoka use. Just that feeling when you're standing on the edge of the curb and you just want to roll. You've got their new Power Run PB midsole material. It is just a package to be reckoned with. Let me jump into the pros and the only con that we have with this shoe, and you'll know what that con is if you've seen my first impressions. I'm showing you the medial side of this shoe, by the way, not the lateral side. I'll show you the lateral side as per all the others. So for me, this shoe is great. Again, it has a gusseted tongue, which is fantastic. You know I love a gusseted tongue. It just absolutely hugs the midfoot beautifully. The laces work really well. I get a fantastic lockdown with this 3D form fit material that they're using on the upper here. It just literally, it hugs my foot, and with a wider foot it works really well. The material wraps around my foot. A bit more of a structure, although I can still bend it, a little bit more structure in the heel counter. There's a bit thicker material that goes all the way around compared to the Carbon X, so you just get a little bit more comfort, a little bit extra padding here in and around the Achilles area, and it does just very slightly flare away from you. The speed roll technology, wow. I mean, we all know what the Meta Rocker stuff is if you've run in Hokas, but again, this is just the Meta Rocker but refined. Just the way that my feet move through the gait cycle in this shoe when I did that 7-mile tempo run was absolutely phenomenal, and I have no words for the Power Run PB midsole. If I was doing my midsoles of 2020 video now, this thing would 100% be in the top 5. In fact, it would probably be in the top 3 if I'm honest with you. It is beautiful, and I'm super excited to maybe see if I can get my hands on the speed version to see what it's like in there with a nylon infused plate and a bit more of a built-up upper. Those are the pros. The only con I have with this shoe is I did find a little bit of heel slippage in the right foot, where I have a little bit of overpronation or something going on in that shoe, in that foot. I've done the extra bunny loop ears, runner's knot, whatever you want to call it. It's helped a lot, but the heel slippage is still there. But other than that, this shoe is absolutely fantastic. If I was to grade these from a 3 to a 2 to a 1 in terms of which shoe I would race in, so let's talk specifically about racing, this thing would come in at number 3. It's just a little bit too heavy, a little bit too unstable. If I was running a looped course that didn't have too many turns, then I might consider it a little bit more, but it is, with the options that I have in my arsenal now, I would probably put this to the back of the pile and keep it for training. As I said, 150 miles in this shoe now, and it is doing really, really well. So that thing would come in 3rd place just for the fact of the instability and the weight. The next one would be the Carbon X. It is still one of my favorite shoes. It's absolutely great. I love the firm midsole. It's a brilliant shoe. I've never had a bad run in it, and I'm super, super excited still to be able to use this thing, and I will still use it in 2020. If some of the races come back, I will see if I can get this into my rotation one more time before we move on to all these new carbon plated races coming in 2020. But my number 1 at the moment has got to be the Endorphin Pro. This is a more finely tuned, refined version of the Carbon X, a slightly better midsole, a better upper. It sheds some weight, it feels light on foot, it's got better, the speed roll technology in my opinion is better than the Meta Rocker, and so for me personally this would be a number 1 racer. So there we go, those are my thoughts on those 3 incredible carbon plated running shoes. I hope you agree or disagree. Let me know in the comments below if you have any of these shoes, what your preferences are if you have 2 of them, and what your dream lineup would be. I am going to be doing a comparison with the Carbon X and the FUELCELL TC against the Next Percent next week, but I've got to wait until we've done the long run because I need to complete testing in the Next Percent before I make judgment on that shoe. So I hope you enjoyed today's comparison video, guys. If you did, please make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and I will see you on the next one. Until then.